I think we all at some point sit back and wonder this one specific thought, and it is somehow the scariest and easiest words you will say to yourself. I don't know who I am. Character means a lot, not just in our lives, but to the world at large. One must have the stoicism and empathy to be a leader and create a bold new world. One must be cunning and ruthless enough to survive for what little they have, and neither of those sides is the right way to live. This is because lives aren't comic books. As much as one's character might disgust you, you cannot say that you yourself wouldn't likely fall to the same chasm if you went through what they did, or if you were born with the same deficiencies. But Boku no Hero Academia is a comic book, and manga is such an amazing format because characters are brought to life despite just being drawings on paper. But I think this might be why we tend to expect too much. Not in just art, but in what can be considered what makes up a complex character. Some might argue that Ryomen Sukuna is complex, and some might say no, but both are correct. The same can be said about Gojo Satoru, Hisoka, Orochimaru. It's all about perspective, which is why I want to discuss how this expectation makes us focus on the wrong things when it comes to our main characters like Izuku Mydoria. On the surface, Midoriya is a basic shonen character. Very bubbly, yet nervous, strong, yet weak, and he will always get stronger despite the odds. But that can get stale, and the amount of times I've read complaints of Crybaby Deku is deafening to my ears, because some who say this ignore the perspective of this character. So let's put ourselves in his shoes. You grow up into a bizarre world, normal to you, which has been brought to peace by heroes. You are naturally groomed to love heroes as they are the pillars of society, especially All Might. At times he seems more like a myth than a person. The fact that someone so amazing exists boggles the mind. You obsess. You hope to be like him, and everyone encourages you to be a hero like All Might, but of course never to his caliber. It is All Might after all. Slowly, one by one, you start to realize that to even follow in these footsteps, you have to be equipped with some right stuff, some special kind of gift. This is the quirk factor. Your abrasive best friend Kachan got one, and as a matter of fact, everyone you have ever met has a quirk. And they're not all heroes, but just having one shows potential. It's a sense of normalcy that you are showed every day. You can't wait to join this group. And then you find out that you can't. Your friends abandon you. Your hopeful mother sheds tears for you instead of supporting your dreams. Your dreams are ripped right from under you. All men are not born equal. Now, All Might isn't just a myth to you. He is definitely real. But it hurt more to know that he was, because you could never be like him. The one person you were told to be aspiring to is unreachable. All of this is what Izuku Mydoria experiences by the age of 5. Just 5. Everyone turned on him, and he became an outcast. Not just an outcast, but an outcast in a world where it is normal to be abnormal, and yet still wrong to be abnormal. Hannah Morse, for example, must have experienced an intense and inverse of what he did, but in a way worse way. Most are demonized and stared at very bizarrely. That's just the reality. And all these things are what make up Izuku Mydoria. He has immense social anxiety. He mumbles to himself, he cries a lot. And that's okay. Not everyone can be stone cold. Not everyone should be. People who love to say that Izuku is the B word would cry tenfold through their lifetime if they were in his spot, because you know what? You're not the main character. You're not Izuku Mydoria. You're just not him. You don't have his grit. And despite all his fears, he was the one who held onto the leg of All Might at the risk of potential death. All just to fully confirm the reality of his dream. Because it didn't just take courage to do such a thing. It took him having to let go of his very pride. To literally grab a hold of someone. The desperation you must be facing is immense to do this, and yet the conviction he possessed to do it is just amazing. Let's be real. The concept of hanging onto someone's leg just to ask a question is insane to most of us, and honestly it's very embarrassing. And it'd be worse if he chose not to do this, because people who are bullied are told that they are the problem, and that asking for help isn't helping anyone but just burdening others. But what determines whether a character is solid or not isn't how cool and collected they are at all times. It's how grounded their personality is in comparison to what they've experienced. If, for example, after everything he went through, Aizawa sounded bubbly constantly. You think it was funny, sure, but it wouldn't make sense. Because all the things that he has seen are integral to the way he navigates through life. Much like Izuku is obsessed with throwing his body away due to him having a chance to prove himself and protect others at all times, Aizawa has come to care a lot about teaching, even if it is tiring, because he lost his best friend right as they begin their hero careers, straight out of school. So the careers of those children, who are his students now, is very important to him. It is why he's so hard on them, why he shows adversity, and why he challenges them constantly. And it wouldn't be wrong to point out that there are some things about Izuku that just don't make sense. Like, for one, if he was ostracized, why didn't he just work out at least? I mean, get his body stronger. Use that brain of his. But it actually makes perfect sense. When you're 14, 15, you weren't thinking about working out. You were either having fun, or I guess in Izuku's case, he was told every day that he didn't matter unless he had a quirk. We're not Izuku Mydoria, and it's easy to point the finger and say, just shut up and do some push-ups. But that's not based in reality, because ironically enough, you yourself could be as unfit as hell while saying this. I'm not saying that everyone watching My Hero is unfit. Obviously, not all of us weebs stay on our computers all day. But even if you are fit, you have some level of body dysmorphia due to the things that you have seen, like things on social media. So imagine a world where people are glorified with the ability to do things that some would consider godly. Taking that first step isn't easy, and I myself am still in the process of trying to stay consistent with improving my body, and that's what spurred on this video. No matter what stage you're at, whether you haven't begun yet, whether you're on the way or near the finish line, trying to find meaning in why you wish to improve at all is the hardest thing to do. And I said this myself as I shouted at my screen towards Deku while watching the series for the first time, asking why he didn't try some workouts, run a little bit. And it only occurs to me now how trapped those like Deku are and feel. Because he wasn't much different compared to the kids in the school system that are getting bullied as I speak. He just so happens to be a comic book character. But not everyone can be as good as Stain in hand-to-hand combat. Mostly because they're not deranged enough to try to fight heroes with nothing but physical skills. Stain is actually clinically mentally unstable. That's how much it took for someone to rise to such a level. Not everyone wants to put themselves through that. We have family. Much like Izuku, I mean, we all understand the pain that comes with watching your parents cry over you. It's suffocating to be so scared for you. I mean, you're supposed to be scared for them most of the time because, well, they're old. So how could you look at someone you care about so much in the eye and tell them that you will not feel satisfied until you're left battered and broken? You wouldn't say that, and you wouldn't do that. But that's implied because a standard of heroism is far too crushing to uphold, and it's been shown through Izuku's journey. All of this is to say that while you can be excited about Vigilante Deku, take a moment to realize that the normal Deku is just as cool. He doesn't have a super interesting backstory. That's why he's the main character. Because Izuku Mydoria is us. He's a normal boy who has been twisted by the society he lives in to strive to an ideal. For him, it's heroes, cool super moves, and saving people. For us, it's Instagram, model bodies, getting girls, getting clout, or being famous. Complexity, if we're just talking about it in a straightforward way, is definitely not what Deku is. But it is because he isn't that he becomes so complex, a product of his environment, someone who just wants to do good for the sake of being good. And to encapsulate all of this, I'm going to borrow a quote from one of my favorite TV shows. You are unique in the universe. There is only one Izuku Mydoria, and there will never be another. There will never be someone else who has gone through the same circumstances in the same way and has reacted the same way he has. He is himself, and he couldn't be anyone else, and that's why he's a main character. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.